Hello, today for review I've got one of the most hyped models of last few weeks. It's new model by KZ, they give it a name ZSX, or how they humbly called it, Terminator. And you know, it's probably the case when name could be really true, because KZ is probably the most well-known company on that inexpensive Chinese earphones market, and they came a long way. They started with dirt cheap models that sounded pretty bad but was okay for the price, and now they've ended offering really well built models with a good sound. And ZSX is their recent addition to the flagship lineup. They released AS16 with 8 balanced armatures per year, for example. They released really successful model ZS10 Pro and a lot of other models recently they released, and I covered almost all of them. And ZSX is the new 6-driver hybrid model, so each ear has 1 dynamic driver and 5 balanced armatures. And surprisingly, they priced this model about $50, same as previous the ZS10 Pro, but actually now ZS10 Pro is reduced. Its price is about $45. Somewhere you can get it for $40 and even $35. So now it's a step forward in terms of price compared to ZS10 Pro. But what about sound and all other features? Let's find out. Well, at least they used a bit different box. As you can see, instead of typical matchbox, they used this small black cardboard with metal plate. Don't know why they put it, but it looks okay. So in the box you will have earphones themselves, as usual, few pair of tips, this time 1, 2, 3 additional pair of tips, and of course traditional cable. You know, probably the end of the world will become sooner than KZ will start using other cables. In terms of design, it's pretty familiar in-ear monitors, but with a slight twist. Of course, we've seen that combination of metal and plastic before, but this time, as you can see, they changed the shape of the cases. This time it's more ergonomical and it's closer to the classical universal version of custom in-ear monitors that many high-end companies are releasing. More ergonomical, more smoother shape. And probably we'll see this shape of cases in some future with other models, but currently it's probably the first model, or at least the first model that I've seen. Fit is pretty nice, you know. For me, fit of previous shapes of ZS10 Pro, for example, and this one are pretty identical, but I think this one will fit more ears. Nice metal faceplate, really stylish looking, you know. For $50 they are looking even better. Cases are semi-transparent, you can get few different color options, and inside you can see all the internals. Dynamic driver, balanced armature drivers here. Some driver is placed in the spout, and actually speaking about the spout, they are pretty long. As usual, here used metal bores, and there is a protective grill, so sound isolation is a bit above average. There is a lip for holding the tip, so all that nuances that I pay attention at. Tips are holding pretty nicely, and build quality is also really good, really solidly built in-ear monitors, and at least to my take, design is great. And cable, well, cable is typical KZ cable. It's brown, everyone saw it. Here once again they've used the sockets with recessed pins. I'm starting to like them, at least they are pretty reliable. This is the right socket, so let's put the right earpiece here. Ear hooks are format, no memory wire inside, so no need to bend it, but it's holding the cable really well. Cable itself is pretty soft, a bit getting hard when it's cold with slight microphonic effect, but thanks to the ear hooks it won't bother you, it's soft, it's pretty normal, so I don't know what to say about it. There are a lot of third-party options, but of course, there is no need to change this cable or to buy some other cable only based on the sonic performance. Of course, you can buy some third-party cable based on the aesthetics, but don't expect big sonic changes. It's not that level of in-ear monitors. But at the same time, it's reliable, it's well built, big bulky splitter, nice angle jack, so it won't apply additional stress to the socket of your DAB. Anyway, I think for the $50, even despite basic cable and basic accessory set, build quality is really good as well as presentation. And of course about the sound, and this time KZ ZSX really proves that they are worthy their name. They are definitely the Terminators. Maybe not the only Terminators in this price range, because there are a few other models that are really competitive. I will cover comparisons a bit later, but definitely they raise the bar really high with few other models also, and they offer really good sound. They definitely highlighted actually it's not the issues, probably it's better to be called not so great parts of ZS10 Pro, because ZS10 Pro is a great sounding hybrid model, and with reduced price they are even better, of course, but they highlighted the key problems, maybe not problems, weaker spots, and they've managed to, well, not 100% fix it, but definitely improve that parts. So let me put a player on the table. They require a few hours of burn-in, but don't bother burning them on purpose, just listen to the music and after a few hours they will settle. They require, of course, finding a proper tips, but luckily KZ tips are fitting nicely to my ears. Usually the biggest one, black ones, are pretty okay. But of course there are a lot of other tips at your disposal. If you need, for example, better sound isolation, you can use Symbio ear tips. If you have really unusual shape of ear channels, then spin fits will do the trick, and so on, but usually stock tips will fit many. So in terms of sound, they are V-shaped hybrids, but at the same time this V-shapeness is really slight. I suppose that times when KZ did that awful V-shape with lot of bass and piercing treble are gone, because now they found someone who can hear and who tweaks their in-ear monitors. Well, let's probably proceed step by step. Bass, if you look at frequency response of KZ, ZSX and ZS10 Pro, they're really close. It's like few decibels of difference. Difference isn't big on the measurements that are done properly, but at the same time overall perception, well, not completely different, but audible difference is really more noticeable. And bass here is deeper and it's a bit faster. It's that thing that you won't see on the frequency response, because bass here is faster, and at the same time it preserves good body and good punch, good weight, good rumble. Of course, not like some $300 model, but for $50 they surprised me really much. So they really did surprise me, let's say so. So, good rumble, good texturing, good resolution, proper attacks and decays, very realistic, and they are fitting both worlds. Usually in the affordable price range you can get either good model for some synthesized bass with lot of deep layers of bass and with accent, or you can get in-ear monitors for real instruments, for acoustic double bass, for example, for bass guitar, for organ and other stuff like that. So that models that are tuned towards neutrality. This one is definitely hitting the both spots. Of course, probably for some genres like electronic dance music you can wish for a bit more bass, but at the same time, at least to my taste, they have enough of bass, and what is more important, they have that deeper layers of bass with good control, and they are really good in building the foundation. Of course, a bit more punch for the electronic music could be a plus, but at the same time I'm not missing that, and what is more important for me, on the real instruments they are really performing nicely, playing them in impressive and lifelike way. And as an example, I've got Wardruna. I actually have no idea how to read the name of this track, UruR or something like that, so it's Scandinavian folk, great example of that, and this particular track has some big drums beating in the background and some howling, some roaring of the beast, and all that sounds are really deep and going really on the almost to the infra bass. Of course, no in-ear monitors can play deeper layers of bass, because deep layers of bass are perceived not by the ears but by the whole body. So for deeper layers of bass you will need subwoofer, but they're going on the pretty impressive depth for in-ear monitors. So mids is another area of improvement that frequency response won't show you, because they retuned crossover and they moved the frequency cut somewhere to the more upper frequencies, and mids here are more coherent and they are a bit more detailed, but at the same time they have a bit more weight than ZS10 Pro. Actually, to my ears it was one of my biggest, not the issues, but things that could be improved. So they were a bit more focused on the micro contrast, and it's a simple way to achieve the effective sound for the hybrids or for the balanced armatures. You make the focus on the micro contrast, and the listener will be overwhelmed with the amount of the tiniest nuances, tiniest details, and they will sounding a bit more effective. This one sounding more natural and more lifelike. So they don't shifting focus from the micro detailization to more weighty representation, to more macro dynamics. Like they are better in terms of emotions, in terms of body of instruments, in terms of weight of vocal, and so on. At the same time, they of course have a good resolution, pretty clean mids, not too much recessed, really nice and coherent with all other sound. Well, I wanted to describe sound without comparing with the ZS10 Pro, but I think it's unavoidable. And as an example for the mid frequencies, I've got a band that always give me a smile on my face. It's Royal Republic. I really like that mix of everything, a bit of hard rock, a bit of disco, a bit of punk, a bit of everything, a bit of rockabilly. So they're mixing everything into one their pretty own and unique genre. And Fireman and Dancers, it starts like some disco tune, but then they've got distorted guitars and pretty groovy, pretty emotional tune, and they require a good resolution, and ZSX will give it to you. So resolving nice, and at the same time enough of hump, enough of kicks from the drums. And treble, another area of improvement, because the ZS10 Pro has accented treble, and it was a bit sparky, so a bit, actually not sharp, but leaning towards the sharper representation. And once again I need to reference that, but frequency response isn't different, pretty close, like up to 3-5 decibels of difference between ZS10 Pro and ZSX, but ZSX sounding more noticeably more natural on the treble in the treble area. Probably they retuned crossover here too. Treble extension is a bit better. Of course, it's not the most extended model, like after 10 kHz they are rolled off, but I think it's done on purpose to hide the issues of compression that are typical for modern tracks. And at the same time they have better attacks and decays and better resolution, and they are a bit calmer. On the treble, maybe if you like a bit more sparkle, ZS10 Pro could be a better option for you, but this one is more calmer and more polite. So if you like a bit not softer, not actually softer, but they are not soft on treble, they are just softer than ZS10 Pro. You know, it's common source of mistakes when I'm saying like this one are soft on the treble. Someone hear it like these ones are soft on the treble. No, they softer, not the soft. So treble has good resolution. Of course, they are lacking of layering. Attacks and decays are still faster than they should be, but at the same time resolution is okay and they don't sounding too harsh or too metallic. And as an example for the treble, I've got the tracks, you know, that I never could use for the KZ in-ear monitors in the past. It's Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington, The Great Summit. It's like, you know, two gods are join their force to perform the best session in the history of jazz, and Cottontail is one of the, well, maybe not the most complicated but track on this album, but one of the most complicated for the in-ear monitors. Really fast fortepiano part, really fast and pretty piercing trumpet, yeah, forgot that. Really fast and pretty piercing sound of trumpet, and it requires a nice realistic treble. Of course, ZSX is not perfect for this track, but they still performs really nice with this track, and it surprised me pretty much. So to summarize everything, nicely tuned V-shaped signature with a bit accented dynamic lows and a bit accented treble, but with good resolution, with good body, and of course not pure balanced armature like resolution, but with more weight and more body, and really nice impressive tuning. And a few words about comparisons. I will try to do that in a brief way. You know, I won't spend like 15 minutes showing you some frequency responses or some measurements. I just share my subjective opinion in a brief way, like, you know, just to have some reference points, because, you know, just TRN V90 showed me that frequency response sometimes can be totally different from what you hear, and this difference between ZS10 Pro and that new ZSX is another example that sometimes frequency response doesn't show it to you. So basically you can see the difference in shells, especially the inner part. Now this ergonomic shape, a bit simpler but still fitting nicely, so I don't think it's much of improvement. In terms of sound, they are a bit more V-shaped with more piercing treble, with a bit less weight on the mids and a bit more hump on the mid bass, and a bit less resolution on the bass, but more focus on the micro details on the mids. You know, don't expect huge treble between all these in-ear monitors in terms of so-called level. In terms of technical performance, they are pretty close, but they offering a bit different signature. So here you will have a bit more mid bass, so a bit more accent. At the same time, a bit thinner mids and a bit more piercing treble. So if you like highlight the clarity, then you can stick with ZS10 Pro. If you like more natural sound, especially more weighty mids, then ZSX will be an option for you. Another interesting model, it's KB-ear KB10, just pure balanced armature model. Price is about the same. they are tuned to be in a totally different way. They are more natural, less V-shaped, so bass is a bit more resolving but less accented, so it's a typical, you know, balanced armatures versus dynamic driver. So they are more linear with more focus on the micro detailization, a bit more treble extension, but at the same time they are thinner and more focused on the details. And if you like to hear smallest, tiniest nuances, it could be an option for you, but ZSX will give you more organic representation, let's say so. And one of the most asked questions of last week, it's TRN V90 versus ZSX. And actually I think they are pretty equal in terms of level and in terms of even technical performance, but with a bit different accents. So here you will have a bit deeper bass, while here bass is a bit faster, so a bit more resolution on the bass. On the mids here you will have a bit more forward mids and with a bit more weight, while here is a bit less weight and mids are a bit recessed. And on the treble here you will have a bit better extension, but they are a bit sharper on the treble. So if you like a bit more resolving treble and you're okay with sharpness, then it could be an option for you. But this one is a bit more polite. So actually this one is a bit warmer, actually not warm but warmer, while this one is a bit more brighter. Like, you know, they both are pretty natural, just like slight step from natural towards brightness and towards warmth, but difference actually isn't big. So if you like nice bass and comfortable treble, it could be a better option for you. If you like more weighty mids and upper mids, it could be an option for you. So it was KZ ZSX and few other popular models in this price range. Thank you for attention.